5 daily habits that shield your bladder from urinary tract infections after 60, and why doctors barely mention them during routine consultations. If you are over 60 years old and have been dealing with recurring urinary tract infections that seem to come back every few months no matter what you do, or if you have noticed that your body no longer responds to treatments the way it used to, then what I am about to share with you could completely transform your relationship with your intimate health. The truth is that most people over 60 are following outdated advice that was designed for younger bodies, and this is precisely why infections keep coming back. Your body has changed, your immune system works differently now, and the protective mechanisms that kept your urinary system safe for decades are not as strong as they once were. But here is what almost nobody tells you. There are specific daily habits, simple actions that take less than 5 minutes each that can create a protective shield around your bladder, making it incredibly difficult for bacteria to establish an infection. If you have ever woken up at 3 in the morning with that unmistakable burning sensation, desperately searching for relief, or if you have had to cancel plans with family because another infection appeared out of nowhere, you are in exactly the right place. Before we dive deep into these 5 habits, I want you to do something for yourself right now. Click the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell, because by subscribing, you are joining a community of thousands of people over 60 who decided to take control of their urinary health instead of accepting infections as an inevitable part of aging. Every week, I share detailed information about intimate health that most doctors simply do not have time to explain during a 15-minute appointment. Think of this channel as your personal health consultant, always available, always ready to give you the real answers you deserve. Subscribe now and start your journey toward a life where urinary tract infections become rare events instead of monthly struggles. Now, I need to know something important before we continue. In the comments below, tell me, how many urinary tract infections have you had in the past year? Just write a simple number. Also, if you feel comfortable, share your age and where you are watching from. This information helps me create content that addresses exactly what our community needs. Your comment could be the validation someone else desperately needs to realize their struggle is real and shared by many others. The 5th habit that can shield your bladder from infections after 60 is something most people do in reverse, and this mistake alone could be responsible for up to 30% of recurring infections in older adults. I am talking about the timing of your fluid intake throughout the day. You have probably heard that you need to drink more water. And yes, staying hydrated is crucial. But here is what changes after 60. Your bladder capacity naturally decreases, your kidney function slows down slightly, and your body's thirst signals become less reliable. This means that if you drink large amounts of water right before bed, which many people do because they forget to hydrate during the day, you are actually setting yourself up for problems. When you flood your system with fluids in the evening, you create a situation where your bladder fills up repeatedly during the night, but you might not wake up each time it needs to empty. This leads to urine sitting in your bladder for extended periods, and that stagnant urine becomes a perfect breeding ground for bacteria. A study at the University of Michigan Medical Center found that those who consumed more than 60% of their daily fluids after 6 p.m. had a 43% higher rate of urinary tract infections compared to those who distributed their fluid intake evenly throughout the day. Let me tell you about Margaret, a 67-year-old retired teacher from Ohio who was getting a urinary tract infection almost every other month. Margaret would forget to drink water during the day while busy with her grandchildren. Then around 8 or 9 p.m., she would consume 3 or 4 large glasses of water before bed. This pattern was wreaking havoc on her urinary system. We worked together to restructure her fluid intake schedule. She started drinking a full glass of water. Immediately upon waking, another glass mid-morning, one with lunch, one in mid-afternoon, and a final glass no later than 5 p.m. After 5 p.m., she limited herself to small sips if thirsty. Within 3 months, Margaret went from having an infection every 6 to 8 weeks to going 5 months completely infection-free. She recently celebrated 9 months without a single infection, something she had not experienced in over 4 years. The science behind this habit is directly related to how your aging bladder functions. Your bladder is lined with a protective layer that acts like a shield against bacteria. After 60, this protective layer becomes thinner. When urine sits in your bladder for long periods, especially during the night, Bacteria have more time to penetrate this weakened barrier. By distributing your fluid intake throughout the day and minimizing evening consumption, you ensure that your bladder empties regularly during your waking hours when you are mobile. This regular flushing action is one of your body's most powerful natural defenses. Get yourself a water bottle that holds about 24 ounces and commit to finishing it twice during the day, once before noon and once before 5 p.m. Set alarms on your phone every 2 hours from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. as gentle reminders. The fourth habit involves your routine immediately after physical intimacy, but not in the way you think. Most people know they should urinate after sex to flush out bacteria. However, what almost nobody talks about is what you should do in the 24 hours following intimacy, especially after age 60. After 60, your vaginal tissue and urethral tissue become thinner due to decreased estrogen levels. This tissue thinning means that physical intimacy can cause microscopic tears that create entry points for bacteria. Research from the Journal of Gerontology found that women over 60 who engaged in sexual activity had nearly double the risk of developing a urinary tract infection within 72 hours, but this risk dropped by 68% when specific post-intimacy protocols were followed for a full day after sexual activity. Linda, a 64-year-old from Arizona, started experiencing infections almost every time she and her husband were intimate. She learned about the 24-hour protection protocol. Immediately after intimacy, Linda would urinate as usual, but then drink 16 ounces of water. Over the next 24 hours, she would increase her total water intake by about 50%, drinking an extra 30 to 40 ounces throughout the day. She would also avoid any foods or drinks that could irritate her bladder during this period, including caffeine, alcohol, spicy foods, and artificial sweeteners. She would take a shower within 2 hours, cleaning the external area with plain warm water. She would also avoid wearing tight-fitting pants for the rest of the day. Linda went from having an infection almost every time to having just 2 infections in an entire year. The science behind this protocol is rooted in understanding bacterial behavior. When bacteria enter the urinary tract, there is a window of 12 to 48 hours during which they are trying to establish themselves. By flooding your system with extra fluids during this 24-hour period, you are flushing out bacteria before they can multiply and attach. Before we move to the third habit, I need to pause and ask you something deeply personal. How many times have you experienced that burning sensation, and instead of immediately reaching out for help, you tried to push through it, hoping it would go away? How many times have you felt ashamed to bring it up, even with your doctor? I want you to understand something crucial. You are not failing, and you are definitely not alone. Right now, I want to invite you to break that silence. Go to the comments section and share your experience. It can be as simple as writing, "I have been dealing with recurrent UTIs for 3 years," or "I am 68 years old and I have had 5 infections this year." Your comment does not need to be long. What you might not realize is that your words could be the exact message that someone else needs to read today. Take a moment right now and write your comment. Let us build a support network together. The third habit is probably the most overlooked, even though research shows it can reduce your infection risk by up to 40%. I am talking about your bathroom posture and the amount of time you spend actually emptying your bladder. After 60, your pelvic floor muscles naturally weaken, and this affects your ability to completely empty your bladder. When you do not fully empty your bladder, you leave behind residual urine that becomes stagnant and creates the perfect environment for bacterial growth. A study from Stanford University discovered that women who spent less than 30 seconds urinating had residual urine volumes 3 to 4 times higher than women who took their time and used optimal positioning. Helen, a 71-year-old retired nurse from Michigan, was having an infection every 6 to 8 weeks. Helen was always in a hurry, rushing through bathroom visits. When we discussed complete bladder emptying, she was skeptical that 30 seconds sounded necessary. But she tried it for 1 month, setting a small timer in her bathroom as a reminder. Within that first month, Helen noticed she was urinating more during each visit. By 3 months, she had gone infection-free for the first time in over 2 years. The second component is positioning. The standard sitting position on a modern toilet is not optimal for complete emptying. When you sit at a 90-degree angle, your pelvic floor muscles cannot fully relax. The solution is to elevate your feet about 6 to 8 inches using a small stool, which brings your knees up higher than your hips. This position straightens the urethral pathway and allows gravity to assist. Additionally, lean slightly forward from your hips and place your elbows on your knees. This creates gentle pressure on your lower abdomen that helps push out remaining urine. The second habit involves strategic probiotic use, but not the probiotics you might be thinking of. There is a category of probiotics specifically formulated for urogenital health that can create a protective bacterial environment around your urethral opening that actively prevents harmful bacteria from causing infections. Your vaginal and urogenital microbiome changes dramatically after menopause. The decrease in estrogen causes a significant reduction in lactobacilli, the good bacteria that maintain an acidic pH that harmful bacteria cannot survive in. Research published in the Journal of Clinical Microbiology showed that women over 60 with recurrent infections had significantly lower levels of lactobacilli. However, women who used vaginal probiotic suppositories containing specific strains experienced a 62% reduction in infection recurrence over 12 months. Patricia, a 69-year-old from California, had been suffering for nearly 4 years. She had tried everything her doctor recommended. When Patricia learned about urogenital probiotics, she began using one suppository at bedtime twice per week. Within the first month, Patricia noticed her vaginal area felt healthier. By the third month, she realized she had not had an infection. After 1 full year, Patricia had not had a single urinary tract infection after 4 years of constant struggle. When you introduce beneficial lactobacilli directly into the vaginal area, they produce lactic acid, which lowers the vaginal pH. They also produce compounds that actively kill harmful bacteria and physically occupy space on the tissue, preventing harmful bacteria from attaching. Finally, the first and most powerful habit that creates an almost impenetrable shield around your bladder is something that takes just 2 minutes each morning, but that most doctors never mention because it seems too simple to be effective. I am talking about a specific morning routine that combines gentle pelvic floor activation with strategic positioning immediately upon waking. When you first wake up in the morning, your bladder is at its fullest, having accumulated urine overnight. This is also when your body is naturally dehydrated and your urine is most concentrated, creating ideal conditions for bacterial adherence if you do not handle this first morning void correctly. Most people roll out of bed, stumble to the bathroom half asleep, urinate quickly while still groggy, and go about their day. What they are missing is a critical opportunity to set up their urinary system for success for the entire day ahead. The morning bladder protection routine has 3 steps. First, before you even get out of bed, while still lying down, perform 5 slow pelvic floor contractions. You do this by imagining you are stopping the flow of urine midstream and holding that contraction for 5 seconds, then releasing completely for 5 seconds and repeating 5 times. This wakes up your pelvic floor muscles and prepares them for proper bladder emptying. Second, when you get to the bathroom, do not sit down immediately. Stand in front of the toilet and take 3 deep breaths, allowing your body to fully wake up and your nervous system to shift from sleep mode to active mode. This prevents rushed, incomplete voiding. Third, when you sit down to urinate, use the elevated foot position we discussed earlier. Take your time, wait the full 30 seconds, and after you finish, stand up for a moment, then sit back down and see if any more urine comes out. This double void technique in the morning is especially important because overnight urine accumulation often requires this 2-stage emptying. Sarah, a 66-year-old from Washington, implemented this morning routine and combined it with the other 4 habits we discussed. Sarah had been averaging 5 to 6 infections per year for the previous 3 years. After implementing all 5 habits consistently for 6 months, she experienced 0 infections. She continues all 5 habits as part of her daily self-care, and she has now gone 18 months without a single infection. Sarah says the morning routine is her favorite habit because it makes her feel like she is actively protecting her health from the moment she wakes up, setting a positive intention for her entire day. The cumulative effect of these 5 habits working together creates what researchers call a multi-barrier protection system, where each habit reinforces and enhances the effectiveness of the others. What makes these 5 habits so powerful is not just their individual effectiveness, but how they work together synergistically to create comprehensive protection. Think of it like building a fortress around your bladder. The strategic fluid timing throughout the day creates constant flushing and prevents bacterial stagnation. The 24-hour post-intimacy protocol addresses the vulnerable window after physical activity when bacterial entry is most likely. The proper bathroom posture and timing ensures complete emptying so bacteria never have a stagnant pool to grow in. The vaginal probiotics establish a protective bacterial shield that actively fights off invaders before they can reach your urinary tract. And the morning routine sets up your entire day with optimal pelvic floor function and thorough bladder emptying from the very first void. Each habit addresses a different vulnerability in your aging urinary system, and together they create layers of protection that dramatically reduce your infection risk. Many women in our community report that after implementing these 5 habits consistently for 3 to 6 months, they not only experience fewer infections, but they also notice other improvements in their overall urinary health. They have less urgency, less frequency, better sleep because they are not waking up multiple times at night to urinate, more confidence in their daily activities, and a renewed sense of control over their bodies. Some women tell us that these habits have given them back their freedom to travel, to spend time with grandchildren without worry, to maintain intimate relationships without fear, and to simply live their lives without the constant anxiety of when the next infection will strike. This transformation is not just about reducing infection numbers on a chart. It is about reclaiming your quality of life and your peace of mind. I want to emphasize something important before we wrap up. These 5 habits are preventive strategies that work best when implemented consistently over time. They are not quick fixes or emergency treatments for active infections. If you currently have symptoms of a urinary tract infection, such as burning during urination, frequent urgent need to urinate, cloudy or bloody urine or pelvic pain, you need to see your doctor right away for proper diagnosis and treatment. Do not delay medical care hoping that these habits alone will cure an active infection. However, once your infection is treated and cleared, these 5 habits become your maintenance program to prevent future infections from occurring. Think of them as your daily insurance policy against recurrent urinary tract infections. Some women wonder if they need to do all 5 habits or if they can pick and choose. While any positive change is better than no change, the research and our community experience strongly suggests that the combination of all 5 habits produces the best results. Each habit addresses a different aspect of urinary health, and leaving one out creates a gap in your protection. That said, if you are feeling overwhelmed, start with the habits that feel most manageable to you. Master those first, and then gradually add the others over a few weeks. The important thing is to start somewhere and to be consistent with whatever you implement. Let me also address a question we get frequently. How long does it take to see results? The honest answer is that it varies from person to person, depending on many factors, including how severe your recurrent infection pattern has been, your overall health status, whether you have any underlying conditions affecting your urinary system, and how consistently you implement these habits. Some women in our community notice a difference within the first month, experiencing a longer gap between infections than they usually have. For others, it takes 3 to 6 months to see significant improvement. The key is patience and consistency. These habits are creating fundamental changes in your urinary system's defenses, and that takes time. Do not get discouraged if you do not see immediate dramatic results. Keep tracking your infections in a simple journal or calendar so you can objectively see your progress over time. You might be surprised to realize that your infection-free periods are gradually getting longer, even if it does not feel dramatic day to day. If this video helped you better understand what is happening with your body and gave you practical tools you can start using today, imagine what the next videos can do for your health. Subscribe to the channel right now and join thousands of people who have already transformed their relationship with intimate health. Here you will find more than just medical information. You will find understanding, practical solutions, and a community that knows exactly what you are going through. Click subscribe, activate notifications, and together let us build a life with less pain and more well-being. Your health deserves this attention, and you deserve to live without the constant fear and disruption of recurring urinary tract infections. These 5 habits are your shield, your protection, and your path to freedom from this frustrating cycle. Start implementing them today, and I will see you in the next video, where we will discuss even more strategies for optimal urinary health after 60.